In this video, I will show you how to apply a basic solid color floor epoxy and most importantly, give you my honest opinion about this brand, Magic Resin, which at the end of the day, I do not recommend, as you will see. From the beginning, I was frustrated by trying to pour out the resin, part A, into the bucket because it is thick and should not be sold in a bottle. Some of the reviews on Amazon mention the same thing, so I'm not just being a crybaby. Same thing with the pigment. It was hard to squeeze out, and if you decide to do a second layer or an adjacent area, the color could turn out different because you could end up with more or less resin and most importantly, pigment. Other brands I have worked with come with the resin already in a bucket. I mixed part A with the pigment using a small mixing paddle and an electric drill at the lowest setting for a few minutes. Then I poured in part B, the hardener, which is more liquid and not as hard to pour in. I switched to a larger mixing paddle to make it more efficient. The instructions say to mix for about 2 to 3 minutes and that you have about 20 to 45 minutes after that to work with the product before it starts to harden, so that makes applying epoxy floors a little stressful. But before we get into the application, a word of caution. If you use a very fast setting on your drill, you could end up with bubbles in your floors, so use the lowest speed setting to avoid this problem. You can also technically mix by hand, but I would not recommend that as it would take too long and then you will have less time to work with the product. Then, of course, you pour out your mixed solution onto the floor in different areas and start spreading it out with a paint roller and or squeegee and or spiked roller, and use a brush around the edges. I would recommend removing baseboards prior to application to get a clean, professional, even finish, and to avoid having those baseboards glued in place if you ever need to remove them to apply a different type of flooring. I was doing a small closet space and was too lazy to remove the baseboards, so you'll see how that turns out. Also, make sure to tape at least a foot up of the walls because you will get splatter on the walls like I did. You can buy some plastic painting tarps or just use contractor bags, which are slippery but handy. Also, make sure to cover the surrounding floor areas so you have somewhere to put your dirty tools as well as to prevent getting splatter everywhere. Also, it is very important in the application of epoxy floors to invest in some spiked shoes. You will need to walk over top of the epoxy to even it out, and these cleats make it possible for you to do so without ruining the work with your